So I've got some questions from players from NCSL, which is National Capital Soccer League. So I'm going to hit you with the questions. You ready?
Sounds good.
So the first one is from Jordan from St. Mary's Gunners Block. So when you were a child, how many hours a week did you spend training on your own?
First, hey, Jordan. When I was younger, back in the day, really normally teams would probably train, twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week, depending on your club and like the parks that were rented and all that stuff. So growing up, honestly, like 2 times a week. And then as I got older, as I got to, 14, 15 years old, where there was a little more meaning to it, a little more the competitive edge. We would definitely train 3 times a week. I also played baseball growing up, so I would have practice so I would have soccer practice on one day, baseball the next day, soccer, baseball, and then on the weekends have multiple games of each on Saturday or Sunday. So honestly, I didn't train too much, but just because I played different sports. But definitely as I got older, I trained a lot more.
So question 2 comes from Jay from Gunston SC. What has been the most difficult part of your rehab process so far?
What's up, Jay? The most difficult part of my rehab process was probably been the first week. It was frustrating not being able to do much. My knee was just kind of stuck. My leg, I was just crutching around. Anytime I walked, it would hurt. And yeah, like sleeping is, you get real achy, so you can't sleep that well, and sometimes your knee can't bend and different things like that. But it's been so far an interesting journey, and now that I'm a month past, each week has been nice to see, the progress and the new things that you can do, right? Like walking upstairs and, now I can bike and do all these things. So the people who have worked with me have done a tremendous job, and it's been hard, but luckily we're all quarantined, unluckily too. So I've had a lot of time to do stuff on my own.
Good. So question number 3 comes from Bill from ABGC U19 Boys. How are you managing your downtime during the situation we are in? So I know you said this is giving you some time to really get in that extra rehab work.
Yeah. Bill, yeah, the few things that I've been able to do is I've been able to start cooking. The good thing is I know how to read, so I can read some cookbooks. And yeah, so I've been learning how to cook, try to cook a little bit healthier, try and help out my girlfriend since she always cooks. So now I'm doing that, working out, watching Game of Thrones for the first time. So those are kind of my 3 things that I've been doing.
Best meal that you've cooked so far this quarantine period?
I made some broccoli cheddar soup twice from scratch, which was really, really good. And yesterday, I slow cooked a corned beef that ended up really, really good with the help of my girlfriend.
You had to add that little part in there.
Yeah.
All right, so number 4 comes from Amy from VYS 10G Black. Paul, who is the biggest prankster on the team, what was his best prank, and hopefully you weren't the victim of it?
Ooh, Amy, that's a good question. I'm not quite sure, actually. We don't have like one definite prankster, someone that's always doing pranks. I mean, we have some goofballs on the team, but nothing. I don't really know if there is a prankster. Yeah, I mean, nothing on the top of my head that makes me think nothing like you come in and you see all of your stuff twisted around or anything like that. I don't really think that we have one, and maybe we got one in the month that I've been missing, but I've definitely not been the victim of it.
So let's at least go with who's the funniest guy on the team? Who's always cracking jokes?
Shoot, probably the funniest guy on the team. I don't know. I find a lot of people funny. I mean, Ulises Segura is pretty funny. I think Fred is pretty funny too. Russell is a goofball. Yeah, I'd probably say those guys.
Perfect. So number 5 comes from Noah from Florida Craze Crush. How does it feel to score goals for the U.S. men's national team and DC United? And how does it feel to see so many fans wearing your jersey?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Obviously scoring is for an attacker, I guess for anyone really on the field is a special thing. Because in that moment, it's kind of like the feeling of winning, right? In the sense of you see the fans reaction and you're giving other people joy just besides yourself, which I think is very important. Now, obviously, when you're playing away, it's a little bit different because everyone is booing you or they stay quiet, which is also a different type of good feeling that, I'm sure a lot of you guys know that feeling. But it's definitely special. Regardless of the team that you play for, I'm sure that if you guys are scoring goals, you get the same type of joy and sensation, and then as you get older and as you play in front of bigger crowds, it only gets better, right? And so I think it's something that's very special, and that's what a lot of us, especially attackers, we work for, is an end product, not necessarily us. I don't necessarily have to be the one scoring the goal, but if I can help my teammates score a goal, I get the same joy, and the fans get the same joy as well. So that's extremely important. And the other question was,
fans wear a jersey.
Oh
with
yeah,
back.
yeah. It's really interesting. I've seen over the course of a year and a half, really since we moved to Audi Field, that more and more people are wearing number 7 on the back of their DC United jersey, which is obviously something incredible, right? Like even as I'm pulling into the stadium or we're driving in, and I see guys walking to the stadium with their Arriola jersey. My girlfriend always wants me to roll down the window and tell them nice jersey, but I never do that. But it means that you're doing something right, and it's a gift and it's an honor to be able to do that and to have people love you and support you and support the team. Because essentially we can't do what we do without fans and without supporters. And I think for us, we have some of the best supporters. And especially from now sitting in the stands the first 2 games of the season at home. Being able to watch, the fans in the freezing cold stand there, and I was one of them for the first game, and then, having people come up to me and wish me luck and tell them they can't wait for me to get back on the field is really motivating, and it is very special.
And then so Tyler from Gunners actually has a good follow-up question for this. So how hard did you have to work to get to where you are?
Yeah, I think, you have to work extremely hard. You have to work extremely hard. You have to know really what you want. And you have to sacrifice a lot. And, that is the reality. And as, kids get older, you understand that for anything in life, not just sports. For anyone who has grown in their career or in their life or in school, you understand that there's sacrifices and that there's things that you have to do in order to get to where you want to be. And obviously the bigger the goal, the bigger the sacrifice, right? And it's unfortunate to, for some people that they're so talented, and I've known a lot of talented players growing up that, they weren't willing to sacrifice, and that's not to say that that's the bad thing and that they chose the wrong path. But you have to know, how much worth your goal is and your dream is to achieve it. So, I've sacrificed a lot. I moved to Florida when I was 15 to be a part of the national team process, and I missed half of my high school, 4 years, and I didn't go to college, and we've missed weddings and birthdays and celebrations and all these different things, obviously because of the type of job that we have and living. I'm from San Diego, so living across the country, there's a lot of sacrifice. But in the end, it's all about the self drive, and how bad do you want it, and how bad do you want to do what you've been dreaming of. And like I said, it doesn't have to be sports; it could be anything. And a lot of people will find out that requires sacrifice, and that requires being humble and being determined, and having the self-confidence and the belief that no matter what you give up or no matter what you do, it's going to be worth it in the end. And that's kind of how I still go about my job and my career and what I do.
So Allie from Latin 06G Black, this kind of goes into what we were talking about. So what's been the biggest setback that you've had to work through to become the player that you are today?
Yeah, I think there's been multiple things. Obviously on off the field, I think a lot of people know what I've been through, and that's something that I don't need to touch on. Right now, I think obviously the clear setback is my knee. And I don't know what I look like at the end of this journey. And I don't know how long the journey is. But I'm pretty confident in myself, and the understanding that like I talked about in the previous question, the drive and the determination and the sacrifice. With all those things, I haven't let myself down yet in my career, and I don't plan on letting myself down. At the end of this, so it's definitely been my knee. It was hard in the beginning. It's hard now, right? But I think the hardest part I've gotten through, and I've gotten through with a lot of support and a lot of love, and a lot of help. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to coming out of this setback a lot stronger than I was before.
So Zach from Team America FC asks, what do you do during your off time when you're not playing soccer?
Well, I like to get haircuts, Zach, but I obviously haven't been able to get a haircut for about a month and something. So here I am growing, looking all goofy. Yeah, like I said, before my injury, I really, I was just so focused on soccer and hanging out and keeping my body healthy. And now, I've gotten some books. Haven't started reading them yet, but I've gotten those. Game of Thrones right now, and learning how to cook. I obviously want to help, learn how to cook and not just be a soccer player, but be more things off the field, and just kind of looking into different things. But I'm keeping myself busy, that's for sure, during this quarantine time, and also during my rehab process.
Love it. So a couple more questions, going back to soccer questions. So Chris from Liverpool International Academy, Maryland 05s, asks, at what time in your career did you realize that you could compete at the national team level?
Yeah, Chris, it was, to be honest, I've been a part of the national team pool and youth team since I was 13 years old. Which is, I'm back in the day, or, a few years ago, there was a process called the ODP process, that you kind of went from trying out for a state team to the regional team and to the national team. And that was kind of the process that I went through to get to the national team. And once I got to the national team, I realized, that I had a chance to be a part of something special and be a part of the national team and what it meant. And being 13 years old, you just kind of dream about moving up to the next step. And you want to be a kid, you want to be normal, but at the same time, you understand that, if my vision was to become a professional player and be a part of the national, the senior national team, I had to really grow up real fast and understand that. And luckily I was able to do that. I stayed a part of the national team, youth teams from under 14 all the way up to, really under 20. And then I was a part of Olympic qualifying for a couple games for the under 23s, and then, made my senior team debut and have been part of the senior team for I think 4 years now. So yeah, it's been crazy, but I think everyone has different journeys. There's a lot of people who have played in college and then gone on to be big time players for the national team, and there's been players who have played in division, the second division, and then have made it to the first division, and then started being a part of the national team. Everyone has different stories, so just because my journey was a little more straightforward and I stayed a part of the process the whole entire time doesn't mean that if you aren't a part of the national team when you're 14, 15, 16 years old, that definitely doesn't mean anything. There's probably about 90% of the people who have been a part of the national team with me, they didn't end up being a part of the full team. And that's just the reality that everyone has different journeys and careers and paths that life takes them. So I would definitely say, don't be so focused about the way that I've done it. Obviously listen to it and understand it. But understand that it's also not the only way to get to where you want to be, wherever, that is soccer wise.
So Campbell from McLean wants to know, what's the most memorable goal that you scored?
And I have a lot of memorable goals. Shoot. I mean, there is so many, just because you always think that when you score a goal in the beginning of your career that it's the most memorable. But then as I've gotten on with my career, I've noticed that there's been other important goals too. And that's kind of hard. I mean, there's a lot that I don't forget. Probably my first goal as a professional in Tijuana. We played a friendly game against Club America in San Diego, which is where I'm from. And I was able to score there, like with all my friends and family there. That was an amazing experience. That's probably my most memorable one, along with scoring my first goal for the national team. That was also pretty memorable.
So Danny from Sterling Orange 11B wants to know, who was your favorite player when you were a kid, your favorite soccer player when you were a kid, and did you ever get to meet them?
Yeah, that's a good question. My favorite soccer player was David Beckham. He always was. He's the reason why my favorite number is 7. He's the reason why I wear 7. He is an idol, for me to not just on the field but off the field, and the things that he's been able to accomplish, and also his sense of style and the way that he was able to have the confidence to kind of do whatever with his hair is also the reason why I just kind of do whatever with my hair. Tattoos. I mean, he's the real deal. And he's someone that I looked up to when I was younger. My favorite team was Manchester United, so it was easy to love him. And I was able to meet him once. This was back in 2012. He was watching his son train for the LA Galaxy Academy, and I was a part of the LA Galaxy Academy during the time. And I got to training a little bit early, and I went to sit on the bench, and he was the only one there sitting on the bench. And as I got closer to him, I saw the way that he wears his beanie, and I know that there's not very many people that wear the beanie like David. So I said hello to him, and didn't really say much, but kind of played it cool and just said hello, and then sat next to him. And we didn't speak after that, but hopefully again I'll be able to say hi to him.
Love it. So 2 more questions for you. So Aiden from Sterling FC U13 Coach Gino says, how do you prepare for the physical challenges that you face against bigger players on the field?
Yeah, obviously, for me, I'm a smaller guy, and I'm a little bulldog, right? I just you have to learn that what God gave you got to use it the best way possible. So for me, I try not to get into the battles that I don't want to get into against big guys, right? Fortunately, I'm a winger, so I'm not constantly against the biggest guys on the field. But just kind of one, knowing your opponent, and two, knowing what you're good at and what you're not good at, and being able to accept that, right? For me, it's if I do get into a type of battle with them, I prefer a speed battle over a physical battle, which is why I'll go to my speed and kind of test them with that. So yeah, it's just one of those things that knowing who you're playing against, knowing what their strengths are, knowing what your strengths are is extremely important, and just trusting in yourself. Yeah.
So final question is from Mateo from Villarreal Virginia Academy, and I really like this question. How do you keep your mind and body at 100% during an entire game?
Yeah, Mateo, I'll give you the truth. The question is, how do you keep yourself 100% physically and mentally during a game? And the reality is you don't. The reality is you're never 100% as a professional. When you always have tweaks and aches, and you're always tired, and you feel like at times you can't go anymore. But the like I said before in previous questions, the answer is your self-drive and your willingness and your understanding of what it means to you to play soccer and play for the fans, right? Like there's so many times in games that you're huffing and puffing, and you can't, you feel like you can't breathe and you're just exhausted. But as soon as your teammate needs you to make a run, or your teammate needs you to make a tackle, right, you're going to give 100% of what you have. And the one thing that I've learned is that, no one can tell you anything if you give your 100% mentally and physically. If you give your 100%, no one can ever yell at you and tell you that you did something wrong. Sure, you can have a good game, you can have a bad game, but in the end, if you give 100%, you can leave the field with your head held high, and tell everyone around you, hey, I didn't have the greatest game, but I did give all that I had, and I tried my best. And understand that sometimes it won't be good enough, to win a game. But as far as being a person, for me, I always give 100%. I always give the best that I can, and if I can't give everything that I have, then I have to get off the field so I can let someone else give their 100%. And that's why we have teammates, and that's why we play team sports, is so that we can have each other's backs.